Yeah, it's me. And as you can see, I'm in my library, which means it's time to talk comic book movies. Now, I just got back from seeing Miss Marvel. No, I just got back from seeing The Marvels. Miss Marvel was in it though. So first, without spoilers, that was a really fun movie. It's exactly what you want from a comic book movie. There's just a lot of fun, zany action. There's some good comedy, but there's also some good actual character moments. The story is, of course, sci-fi craziness, but in a way that makes it fun and interesting. Um, and I have to talk about the fight choreographer for this movie. They earned their paycheck. Let me tell you, every fight scene was just so nuts. And this isn't a spoiler because it's in the trailers, but the characters' powers are making them switch places. So that comes into play a lot in the various fight scenes where the characters go to use their power and end up switching places with another one of the characters. And it adds so many extra levels of complication to the fight choreography because even though there's CGI, you still have to keep track of which characters are where and when they're going to switch and what it's going to mean for what they were doing when they switch and keeping the momentum both with where they go but also with the person that took their place. It's a lot to keep track of, and whoever had that job did an amazing job at it. So credit where it's due, awesome. Also, and this is also not a spoiler, the movie theater I go to serves Pizza Hut pizzas as well as your regular snack bar stuff. So when you get your popcorn, you put the butter on it, and they have the little packets of salt. But next to those, they also have the packets of red pepper flakes to put on your pizza. If you put that on your popcorn with the salt and the butter, top tier snack. So just putting that out there for everybody with taste buds. Do that. But yeah, the movie was great. It was a lot of fun. I know there's people out there that say they have superhero burnout, and I'm going to address that in a minute. But don't let that stop you from seeing this movie. You will enjoy it. It is a very good time. But now I'm going to get into spoiler territory, not just for this movie, but for the entire MCU. So if you haven't seen literally every piece of MCU content up to this point, including Loki, which just wrapped yesterday, just hold off on this video until a little later, go catch up, then come back. Please come back. I want views. But yeah, so into spoiler territory, I still really enjoyed this movie. All three of the characters were a whole lot of fun. Just watching, Miss Marvel and the character that still doesn't have a superhero name yet, and then Captain Marvel all just interact with each other was a lot of fun. Just all their interactions and everything, with Miss Marvel at the beginning, fangirling over Captain Marvel and not knowing how to contain herself. And it was fun watching that play out, having her eventually just, treat her hero like a human. And likewise, Monica and Carol, seeing each other again for the first time in 30 years and kind of hashing that all out. There's some good character moments in there. And there's their little training montage where they were learning how to synchronize their power swapping thing that they were doing. And that was just a lot of fun to watch. It was just a goofy little fun scene of these three girls just hanging out, playing with each other, basically. But it was a lot of fun. And I think that's kind of just my takeaway from the whole movie is just, it was a lot of fun. I wasn't bored. I didn't enjoy it. There was nothing that happened that really broke immersion for me. I'm sure some people are going to be annoyed because Valkyrie showed up and it was, we'll say it was subtext, but they made it pretty clear that her and Captain Marvel were an item at one point. And so I'm sure people will be upset that, oh my god, lesbians exist. How dare you acknowledge gay people, blah, blah, blah. But I think it fit with both their characters, honestly. And it was just a brief moment, and it felt right in the moment, too. It explained why Valkyrie would come and help with the Kree and everything. And or the Skrull, rather. Yeah, the moment fit, the character interaction fit, their relationship makes sense. No complaints. I thought that was fine. It was great. I'm cool. I'm on board. And then at the end, of course, in our mid-credit scene, After Monica ends up in a different reality. She's not in 616 anymore. And we see her crossover with Beast, the Kelsey Grammer Beast from the old X-Men universe. That was really cool. And it finally seems like there's cohesion in the universe now. Because like the way Loki ended, with Loki basically no longer being the god of mischief and instead becoming the god of stories and revitalizing all the branches that were dying and basically just holding together this entire interconnected universe and multiverse for that matter. Um, that and then the TVA hopping back and forth and him doing his time slipping. And then, we saw the multiverse, of course, and like Doctor Strange, some of those other movies. And it just, more and more, it's starting to come together and we're starting to see what's going to happen. And really, the way I think it's going, and there's been rumors and teases of this online too, but like especially with what we know of Deadpool 3 and just who's going to cameo in it, it seems like they're setting up Phase 6, which we know is going to end with the big Secret War Avengers movie. We're going to get another portal scene, but instead of just the heroes from the MCU that they've established so far, it's going to be every hero from the history of Marvel. I honestly would expect to see Chris Evans come back as the Human Torch. I bet Lou Ferrigno shows up as the Hulk. Depending how weird they want to get with it, we might see Dolph Lundgren as the Punisher come back. I would imagine Blade comes back now that Wesley Snipes is no longer in prison and is acting again. And of course, all the shows that for no reason at all aren't in continuity, like Cloak and Dagger, which was incredible. Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., also incredible. You have the Runaways you can pull from, the New Mutants, of course, the entire X-Men universe, Daredevil, Elektra. Like, I would expect a lot of those things to come back in, and I'm honestly kind of excited for that. But I want to mention the superhero burnout that everyone's saying they have. And first, I'll start with DC. For people that are DC fans, I don't know why I pointed over here like there's any rhyme or reason to this stuff. There's no DC stuff where I actually pointed. Everything right here is Marvel. But yeah, if you're a DC fan, I can understand saying you're having superhero burnout, but I don't think it's superhero burnout. I think it's just bad superhero movie burnout. Like, the Snyder Cut was really good. James Gunn's Suicide Squad was great. No one felt burnt out after seeing those movies. Peacemaker was an absolute blast. No one was burnt out from seeing that. What people were burned out from was Wonder Woman 84 and the, Harley Quinn and the 900-word subtitle movie that was absolute garbage. The first attempt at Justice League. Those movies are what people were burned out on because they were crap. And there was so much build-up and so much teasing, and then you go see them and you're just like, oh, I was so hyped and wasted all that energy and all the money to come here, and this sucks. People that went to see The Flash with such high expectations, they got the Michael Keaton Batman back, everyone was really excited, including myself, and that movie was utter garbage. The effects felt completely unfinished, like the team just did not have the time, so they gave up halfway through the movie. The storyline was convoluted and dumb. Just, I don't know, I did not enjoy that movie. I don't think anyone else did either. But that's not a burnout from superhero movies. I still want superhero content. I just want it to be good. And that brings me to the MCU because, and this is where I differ from a lot of folks, honestly, I kind of feel like they're doing pretty good. I know a lot of people have been shitting on Phase 4, or I think we're into 5 now, whatever it is. But they're just saying the new content's not as good. And I feel like there was a tighter plan for Phases 1 through 3. It felt a little more coherent. So I can understand saying the new stuff feels a little disparate or not as connected or not as cohesive yet. I get that. But that doesn't make it bad. A lot of what's come out has been really good. WandaVision was great. Loki, both seasons, really good. And the second season, which just wrapped, finally remembered that Loki is a god. And he felt way cooler in the second season. But both seasons of that were great. Miss Marvel, I actually thought was a lot of fun. It's what I wish the CW shows would have been. Because you could tell it was kind of geared for a younger audience, or at least it was more easily appropriate for a younger audience, but it wasn't catering to kids. Like, it still had a cool storyline, it was still fun to watch, I really enjoyed it. Um, Hawkeye was okay. It wasn't the best, but I didn't hate it. I wasn't mad that it was on. The only one, well, I guess the only two I disliked. Falcon and Winter Soldier, I disliked only because it felt like a lot of filler. It felt too long. That should have been a movie. That did not need to be a series. And then Secret Invasion, I didn't like. But that's because nothing of consequence happened. You know, they killed a couple characters, but the show started and ended at the same place. You know, Nick Fury was in space. He came back, did some stuff. At the end, he went back to space. You know, people didn't know the Skrulls were here, and then they found out, but then most of them just left afterwards. So, I don't know, the whole thing was a wash. Nothing really happened. So that show was unnecessary. But other than that, I don't know, all the show, even She-Hulk, I liked. The ending was admittedly garbage, but it was fun to watch. I liked the meta humor. I don't know, I enjoyed it. I liked that it felt more down to earth. Because in a world where superheroes exist, superpowers are a thing, and it's in the news cycle all the time, you would get used to it. You know, you'd be desensitized. And so there would be low level superheroes that just kind of exist, and you'd have to just deal with stupid crap, like, you know, taking them to court because they killed themselves to get out of 10 different marriages. Or you would have the social media influencer that also had superpowers. You'd have, you know, Ribbit and Rip It guy. Like, that all makes sense in this universe. Like, with what they've set up, that's how it would go. You know, when you had that nice rehab retreat for all these super powered people that are trying to be better versions of themselves. Like, that all tracks. Minus the ending in that show, I thought that was actually really fun. It was like a slice of life anime, but live action and with superheroes. So, I don't know, that was enjoyable. And then on the movie side, I feel like they've kind of been killing it. The Eternals wasn't great. I think that needed to flip with Falcon and Winter Soldier, because the only thing that I didn't like about the Eternals is it was rushed. And it's not their fault. They had to fit backstory for a baker's dozen characters in a 3-hour movie, and then set up some new things at the end. And so it was just too much in too short of a time. That should have been a series. It should have had like 8 or maybe 10 episodes, you know, space everything out a little more, build the characters and their relationships with each other a little more. And then it would have been fun, because the characters were interesting. Werewolf by Night was excellent, and nobody talked about that. And even the movies that a lot of people said they didn't like. I know Wakanda Forever, like, it came and went, didn't get a lot of fanfare, and in Quantumania, people just outright hated. I don't understand why. I really enjoyed both of them. I thought Wakanda Forever did great in setting up Namor and his people. And then I really liked Quantumania, honestly. I thought the effects looked good. I really liked the Quantum Realm. Like, I don't know. It was fun. It was just a good watch. It was pleasant. I enjoyed it. Guardians 3 is one of the best things that ever happened in the MCU, so if anyone's complaining about that, they're nuts. The Marvels, like I said, was really good. We've got Deadpool 3 coming up, which is going to be incredible. I don't know. I've been enjoying it. And I'm not just trying to be a Marvel fanboy, because they can absolutely screw up. Like I said, Secret Invasion was a complete waste of time. I'm kind of annoyed I sat through the whole thing. And there was stuff that wasn't great. Like I said, Eternals and Falcon and Winter Soldier really should have flipped. So that was poor management on whoever did those, because one had way too much time for not enough story, the other had way too much story, not enough time. But I still feel like they have a coherent direction. I feel like they have an idea of where they want to go, and I'm interested to see what happens. So I think they're doing fine. And I don't know what else to say without just rambling. Basically, I just wanted to start this to say that The Marvels was a really good movie, because it was. I enjoyed it. It was great. People should definitely watch it. But yeah, I just want to talk about superhero fatigue in general, because I don't think it's a thing. I think as long as there's good content, I'm fine with more superhero stuff. Like people say they have superhero fatigue, but then look how good The Boys and Invincible both did. Those got huge audiences right away because they were really well made, well acted, they looked good, they were just great storytelling, and so people love them. You're not burned out of superheroes, you're burned out of bad stories. So as long as Marvel can keep doing good stories, and now that James Gunn is in charge, DC can start doing good stories. I don't think anyone's going to be burned out. I don't think anyone's going to have fatigue. I think we're all going to get back to just watching good movies. And it sounds like the way Marvel's going, I know they just set up the Young Avengers and the Marvels, which is going to be really fun too. But there's a lot of rumors that they might actually hit the universal reset button, and Secret Wars might kill it all. Just have the Avengers lose, kill the multiverse, and just start over with all their properties fresh. And that way they don't have the plot holes, they don't have to try to retcon things, they can recast roles, retell stories in a better way. They can bring in the superheroes that would be weird to introduce now, like the X-Men, because if they existed in a universe, how did they not appear until now? It's kind of the same issue they had with introducing the Eternals. And honestly, I do hope Marvel goes that way. Now that they have the rights to everything again, I would love to see them get through Phase 6, take a break. Don't do anything Marvel related for like 2 years, and really flesh out a good path. Like, this is the story we want to tell, these are the milestones we have to hit, here's the characters we need to introduce and when, and just really map it out, have a plan, draw the whole thing out, make your conspiracy string board, whatever you have to do. Just plan ahead of time so that you don't need to retcon and you don't need to try and like duct tape things in, and you don't have to force directors to shoehorn, continuity into a story they're trying to tell. You can just make movies and they'll be good to watch. So, like I said, all the rumors about them doing a reset and just taking another stab at it, I kind of hope they're true. As much fun as I am having with the MCU and the characters they've created, and the casting for most of them have been just on point, I would be okay with them starting over and just taking another stab at it. Now that they have the rights to all the characters, now that they have an idea of what audiences expect and what can be done, it would be nice if they get themselves out of this PG-13 bracket they force themselves into, and could really just embrace the R rating for characters that deserve it, like, Morbius and Blade, Wolverine, Deadpool, Ghost Rider, Punisher. Like, there's so many of these characters that should be R rated. They should have swearing, they should have blood, they should have sex or nudity or whatever. Like, it would make telling the stories better because it fits the characters, and I feel like you're kind of neutering them just to keep it PG-13, but at the same time, I understand why they have to keep it PG-13, because if the whole universe so far has been child-friendly, and, you can take your kids to go see Spider-Man, Captain America, Iron Man, whatever, if you don't want to take your kids to those R-rated movies, you're not going to take your kid to see Blade as these decapitating vampires and there's blood everywhere, and you're not going to take him to see Deadpool as he fondles Colossus and, Domino gets her tits out or whatever. Like, you're not going to take your kids to those movies. But then if you don't, when they see the next PG-13 movie and these characters show up and kids have no idea who they are or what plot lines happened in between, it's not going to work. You're going to miss things. So I do hope that if they do the reset and they start over again, that they should still have some sort of continuity, but I don't feel like it needs to be constant. We're talking about comic books, so if you take a comic book, for example, I read a lot of the Deadpool series, big fan of Deadpool, and when reading through those books, it's not paying attention to the timelines of all the other stories. Like, occasionally there will be a crossover where Daredevil will show up, or Spider-Man will show up, or the Punisher, or whoever. And it's fun when that happens, but they're not necessarily connected. They're not necessarily the same timeline. Like, there's one where Deadpool gets married to this, like, queen of monsters. And when he does, like, every Marvel superhero is at the wedding. You know, the Fantastic Four are there, and just so many of the X-Men. Squirrel Girl is there. Howard the Duck is there. Like, everyone's there. And if you go and, like, read Squirrel Girl or Fantastic Four or the X-Men, none of them reference having to go to Deadpool's wedding. Because it doesn't make sense. It was part of his story, not theirs. So they just don't even bother making that a continuity thing. You have all these separate characters, and then occasionally, you know, you smush your whole sandbox together, you play with them all at once in one story, but then you let them go their separate ways again. They don't all have to be moving the same direction at the same time always, because that kind of forces your stories to be homogenized. That's kind of what we have now. Whereas if they could all be separate stories, and then for a special event you just bring characters in and don't worry about how it makes sense in the timeline. You know, the stories can be standalone. When you read the comics, they have one-shots where continuity be damned, it's just a fun story to tell with your favorite character and then a couple guest characters that cameo for a few pages. And that's it. It's just a fun thing to enjoy, and then you go back to your regularly scheduled programming. That's what these movies should be. So if they do the reboot, and they recast, and they start over, and, you know, we get a better version of Civil War that actually has the X-Men, because it was about the Mutant Registration Act, and we get, you know, hopefully, finally, a good version of the Phoenix Saga, and we get Secret Wars, and just all these really cool storylines. It'd be fun to tie the characters together for those stories, but then when those are done, let them go their separate ways. Don't make them connected forever, is what I'm saying. I really hope they can do that. I would like to see the Punisher and Doctor Strange Magic Bullet storyline, but then I don't want to have to mention Frank Castle in every Doctor Strange movie. I want them to go their separate ways after that. The Punisher's doing his thing, Doctor Strange doing his thing. They just meet at one point, and then they both fuck back off to their respective lives. So that's kind of my hopes for what's going to happen. I have no control over anything. I'm some random nerd on the internet who doesn't even have an audience. No one's even going to hear what I'm saying. But it's just fun to shout in the wind sometimes, so here I am doing that. These are my thoughts. If you care, cool. If you made it this far, what are you doing with your life? But hey, thanks. And yeah, go watch The Marvels. It was really, really fun. And that's it. It's like midnight, and I've talked for way too long, so I'm gonna go. See ya.